The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
LSU steals Deuce Geralds from Oregon and Ole Miss.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For the second day in a row, LSU not only lands a commitment, but a massive commitment on the defensive line. On Friday, it was Darius McKinley, brother of former five-star Dominic McKinley. And on Saturday, LSU pulled it off. Deuce Geralds picks the Tigers over Oregon, Ole Miss, Ohio State, and Michigan among his other finalists. So we got a lot to talk about here. I'll tell you about Deuce Geralds if you don't know. I'll tell you how he fits into LSU, what it means for the defensive line. And I'm going to tell you how they pulled this off, because this is a coup for LSU to have gotten this done when it looked like Oregon certainly had the inside track to land Deuce Geralds, but LSU pulled it off. I'm going to tell you how they did it coming up here shortly. So, Deuce Geralds, this is a big one, y'all. Deuce Geralds in the Rivals industry ranking is the number 93 overall player in the country, the 8th best defensive lineman. ESPN ranks him the number 2 defensive lineman in the country and the 40th overall player. But Matt, you always say you don't care about star rankings and ratings. You care about who offered. You're right. I do. Let's go through his offer list, shall we? It's about 2 pages long. You may want to take a seat, grab a drink, and enjoy this. LSU, Ohio State, Oregon, Ole Miss, Alabama, Michigan, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Miami, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Southern Cal, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Vandy, NC State, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Texas, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Florida State, Penn State, South Carolina, Kansas, Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky, Kansas, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Mississippi State, Kansas State, Duke, Central Florida, Cincinnati, Missouri, Tulane, and then a whole bunch of small schools that don't really matter. The point is, everybody wanted Deuce Geralds. This is a massive prospect, arguably the best interior defensive lineman in the country. He's in the conversation anyway. So you land a huge part of your defensive line. The other thing, of course, that is so significant about Deuce Geralds, and if you're an everydayer, you've heard me talk about it, 6'1", 268. He is the identical measurement right now of Bernard Gooden, the South Florida transfer. Now, Bernard Gooden's a fifth-year player. Geralds is going into his senior year of high school. He may still grow and put on more size, but fits the mold of what Kyle Williams wants in a defensive tackle, as we've talked about ad nauseum here. So in landing Deuce Geralds, that puts LSU now at 18 commits. In the Rivals industry ranking, it still leaves LSU at 8th, but when you look at specifically the average rating, Oregon number 1 at 92.4, LSU number 2 at 92.1, slightly behind Oregon. So it's not a quantity class for LSU right now. It is a quality class. Like, I don't think LSU, if you're just looking at the the rankings that go by the score, Southern Cal is 1, they got 32 commits. Georgia's 2, they got 31 commits. Notre Dame's 3, they got 26. LSU got 18. So they're not going to overtake those schools yet. But in the average player ranking, very clearly, it's a quality over quantity. So when you look at the defensive line, one of the reasons this is so exciting is this class, this signing class right now in 26, the defensive line is starting to piece together the way we had become accustomed for a long time to how LSU defensive lines were supposed to look. I've said it before. LSU was DBU for all those years, and you could have made a case that LSU was D-line U. They went a dozen consecutive years having a defensive lineman drafted. It has been a long time since LSU has had a first-team All-American at defensive tackle or on the defensive line. You got to go back to Barkevious Mingo, or Sam Montgomery. You're talking about it's been almost 15 years since LSU's had a first-team All-American on the defensive line. So the point being, when I look at this class right now, Lamar Brown as an edge. He's listed as an athlete, but they expect him to play edge. The number 2 player in the country, 5-star. Trenton Henderson, 5-star, the number 6 edge. So the 2 top edge prospects you have in this country are the number 1 and number 6 edges in the country, 2 5-stars. Richard Anderson, interior defensive lineman, number 2 defensive lineman in the country, number 49 overall. Deuce Geralds, the number 8 interior defensive lineman in the country, number 93 overall. That's before we even start talking about all the other depth that you've accumulated. DeAnthony Lafayette, who's a 4-star edge as a part of this class out of Florida. Adding Darius McKinley, who we talked about as well as an interior defensive lineman. You've even got depth there as well. But the top 4 guys, these are all top 100 prospects. 2 of them are 5-star. 3 of them are 5-stars with Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, and Trenton Henderson. 3 5-stars. And there's Deuce Geralds, who is a high 4-star and may end up as a 5-star by the time the final rankings come in. I'll have to do some research and digging on this, but I think the last time LSU had a truly elite defensive line was in 2011 and 2012. And that's when you had, 11, you had Brockers, and Brockers was gone after 11. 12, you had Benny Logan back, and you still had Montgomery and Mingo. But maybe that 2011 team that had Michael Brockers and Benny Logan and Sam Montgomery and Barkevious Mingo, and even after them, guys like LeVar Edwards and Chancey Aguirre, and the young guys on that team were Ego Ferguson and Freak Johnson, who was a 5-star. That was the last, I think, truly, truly great defensive line that LSU's had. Now, you've had good players. 2016 was a really good defensive line as well. Devon Gottschall was a junior on that team. Christian Lockiter was a veteran on that team. Arden Key was an All-American on that team. 16 could make a push. And you could even go into 19, where Caleb Von Chasson was a 5-star, and Rashard Lawrence was a former 5-star, became a really good player for you. Braden Fehoko was a transfer in from Texas Tech, kind of a rotational guy who's made a nice NFL career for himself as well. But the point being, across the board, this class looks elite, and you're going to add it onto a defensive line in 2026 that's going to already include Dominic McKinley as a junior, Ahmad Bro as a junior, the elite level players that are playing and recruited. Gabe Relaford will be a junior next year as well. And then you look at some of the other guys, Sadir Mitchell coming back after being in the transfer portal for LSU in the first year this year, could come back as a 5th-year player, 4th-year player in 2026. I mean, you just signed 3 defensive linemen, elite defensive linemen in the most recent signing class for 2025. It is looking like it's supposed to look. Yeah, there's even guys whose names we haven't gotten to know yet, like C.J. Jackson and Damian Shanklin, some of these freshman edge rushers who you go out to practice and they look the part. You go like Damian Shanklin, who's wearing number 17, is 6'5", 260. You go, that's a freshman? It's so impressive, and you can understand they're building the defensive line back to how it used to look when LSU was playing dominant defensive football. Look, one of the reasons that I'm straying here, but one of the reasons I'm more bullish on this year's defense in the secondary is because I think the pass rush is going to be elite. And if you have elite pass rush, that's going to help your secondary. It's pretty clear they're continuing to build along there. So they land Deuce Geralds. I think you get it. It's a big deal landing this commitment.
We've all been there. Logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime. And you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed.
Julian Sands shines on day 3 of fall camp.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It was day 3 of fall camp. The pads came on and the intensity went through the roof. And as the intensity went up, you knew that one of the two quarterbacks trying to be Ohio State's QB1 needed to raise their level of play. Through the first couple of days of camp, it really has been neck and neck. It's been very close. Keenholz was more efficient on day 1. Sand was a little bit sharper on day 2. But on day 3, there was no question about it that Julian Sand outshined Lincoln Keenholz. He was the sharper quarterback. He was the better quarterback when handling pressure. And he is a guy that's building the proper consistency needed to be Ohio State's QB1. Because on day 3, when you know that not only the pads are on and the intensity is going up and through the roof, but also there's fans there and the media. You know people are going to be watching your every move, your every step to try to evaluate you, to figure out if you are a guy that's a gamer. And if you think back to the spring, the same thing happened towards the end of spring ball, where it was very, very close between Lincoln and Julian. At times, Keenholz had the upper hand. But as spring ball went on, and as you got closer to the end of spring practice, Julian Sand emerged as a front runner, and that showed up in a big way during the spring game. Well, during day 3 of fall camp, Julian Sand's arm strength was on full display through a couple of deep balls to Jeremiah Smith. One of them was pretty well defended by Bryce West, but it's Jeremiah Smith. And if it's in his radius, which is a pretty large radius, he's going to get that ball. And there was one clip going around on the social media where Jeremiah Smith caught a ball that was pretty well defended. I mean, really well defended by Bryce West, but Jeremiah Smith found a way to get that ball in his hand and made a miraculous catch. But not only was it the catch, it's saying being more comfortable. It is saying being a gamer. Because sometimes some people need to be in the spotlight. They need to know that all eyes are on them, and they're going to go out there and raise their level of play. Now, over the next few days and next couple of weeks, as the intensity goes up and the doors are shut to the media and even fans to attend fall camp, it's going to be very, very interesting to hear how Ryan Day and the other players speak about these two quarterbacks. Are they saying things that are saying, yes, it's truly as close as Ryan Day has said it is? Or are they starting to use certain words and phrases to separate these two quarterbacks? They're going to do their best to not answer who the starting quarterback is going to be before Ryan Day answers it. But you can listen to the way people speak about certain individuals to try to figure out, is that a way for him to say that guy's the guy? Or is it a different way? I remember last year. I don't think it's going to happen this year. But I remember a year ago, Jeremiah Smith, this is probably less than a week before Ryan Day named Will Howard the starting quarterback. Jeremiah Smith referred to Will Howard as my quarterback. Now, it was an understood thing. It was expected for Will Howard to be the starting quarterback, but Ryan Day hadn't named it yet. And also, in spring ball, Will Howard had a lot of maturing to do as a quarterback because being a quarterback at Ohio State isn't the same thing as it was over at K-State. Well, right now, I don't think you're going to hear Jeremiah Smith or Ennis or Tate or anybody refer to Keenholz or Sand as my quarterback. But what they can do is kind of describe the things they see in what we saw on Saturday, the final day of, day 3 of fall camp, was Sand being the guy. Also, it helps when you're going in 11-11 and you're working behind your own offensive line, as where Keenholz, some of his struggles came when he was with the second unit behind the backup offensive line. And honestly, that's kind of expected. Not so much the struggles, but you're going to get more pressure at times because the backups aren't as good as the starters. That's why they are backups. But also mentally, you're not as comfortable behind the backup O-line versus the starting O-line. That's also an understood thing as well. Going 11-11, going good on good, one versus ones, you're going to see who is made of the right kind of stuff. I believe both these quarterbacks are made of the right kind of stuff. But on day 3, it wasn't a question. There's no doubt about it. Julian Sand outshined Lincoln Kienholz, and he's building the consistency needed for him to be Ohio State's QB1. I would be comfortable with both of these guys being starting quarterbacks. I think there's some intangibles that Kienholz has versus saying that may be more advantageous for Ryan Day to name Kienholz as the starting quarterback based on some of the intangibles. I think that Sayan is a better passer, and he has a special arm that may lean Ryan Day to go that route. Whichever route Ryan Day decides to go, I believe these two guys are both worthy candidates to be starting quarterback this year at Ohio State. But who does it more consistently right now? Because you need that consistency in fall camp for Ohio State to have a special year of 2025, but also to beat Texas. You can't just roll in week one and say, oh, we're going to roll in there and just lay down and let Texas do whatever they want to. No, you got to get ready up to speed very, very quickly, which is going to be fun to hear what is said about Kienholz and Sayan up until Ryan Day announces who's going to be the starting quarterback. The pass went on, baby, and you have to see the intensity go up. Y'all know how I feel about one-on-ones between the O-line or D-line, but when they ain't got pads on. But you don't have to worry about that on day 3 of camp because the pads went on and them boys were hitting. But also, when the pads go on, you're trying to see who separates themselves. I mean, similar to Sayan and Kienholz on day 3, where Sayan had the upper hand. I'm looking to see who in the trenches is truly making a name for themselves. And there are 4 guys specifically that play one position. They're actually on opposite sides of each other that are showing that they can be disruptors, and that the rotation of these 4 guys on the edge is going to be a solid one for Ohio State. It's the edge rushers. I still call them defensive ends at times, but I believe all 4 of the guys that are going to be in rotation, and Bo Atkinson and Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Caden Curry and CJ Hicks, all 4 of them are going to be phenomenal this year. Hicks is the wild card because nobody truly knows what he's going to be when he has a role on the edge week after week after week. But this is the right move for him. He's not playing backer this year because of Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. So how could he get on the field? Also, how could he make a name for himself to be drafted, to put the right film out there, go on the edge? And he is one that is maybe has the most to prove, which he does, but also I believe he's going to be a phenomenal piece. And going up against guys like Ethan Ananwa when Hicks blew by him, thinking, oh, man, he's going to get the crowd to ooh and ah and clap, but he's also going to get the coaches to rant and rave and say, oh, we got to find more ways to get that young man to get on the field consistently. Caden Curry had a strong day with the pass rush, and he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. I understand there have been people that have said, hey, maybe he could play inside a little bit. I think Curry's best position this year with Ohio State is on the edge. Even when he was coming out of high school, I didn't really understand it then. People thought, oh, maybe he'll buff up to be a 3 technique. Yes, he played really well as a 3 technique in high school. I never saw with my own eyes, and I watched him play, him being a phenomenal 3 tech, gaining around 30 to 40 pounds to do that. Keep him keep him on the edge, allow him to keep his same frame. You don't have to wonder, how is it going to be if he gains 30 to 35 to 40 pounds? You don't have to do that because at 260, at 6'3", he is going to be a dog on the edge. Bo Atkinson also has a lot to prove as he is a new Buckeye. And then Kenyatta Jackson Jr., he was an Iron Buckeye. He's also a guy that I don't want to get glossed over, that he is a Block O candidate. And so if he does become a Block O, wear the Block O jersey, I would love it. I may end up getting one. I don't have plans of getting a jersey of any player on the team right now. But if K-Jack is a sack leader this year and he is a first-team All-Big Ten guy, you might see me at some point on the show, at least on the YouTube, flash his jersey that I recently got. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. Some other news and notes from day 3 of camp. Tywone Malone Jr. and Jason Moore rotate in place of Edric Houston in Houston's absence. He is still out of practice. It's not considered serious. Could he be back for the Texas game? Yes, he could be. But for right now, he is sidelined and he is recovering and trying to rest up as much as he can before getting back on the field. 7 players, so we do this all the time. 7 players rotated at punt return. They are the following. A lot of the guys we've talked about already. There's a couple new guys here as well. Bryson Rogers, Caleb Downs, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Turbo Rogers, and Mylan Graham. All these guys, honestly, I forgot Jeremiah Smith. All 7 of them can return punts. I still think the top 3 guys for this are Caleb Downs, Brandon Ennis, and Mylan Graham. Jeremiah Smith, I doubt will be back there. Turbo Rogers is kind of like your emergency guy. Hey, we don't want to put Smith back there. He's the best player in the country. Downs, Ennis, and Graham kind of need a breather. Hey, Turbo, go out there and try something. If you want to see Turbo do something in return game, the Grambling State game, or maybe I think it's the Ohio Bobcats or game number 3, try it there. But I really wouldn't think anything else. Peyton Pierce saw regular time with the first team defense, rotating with Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. It's one thing I love when Ohio State goes ones versus ones and the media can watch. You can see what linebackers are rotating in with the ones, knowing Ohio State runs a 4-2-5, that you can get to see, okay, like he's number 3 in the rotation, number 3 linebacker in the room because of with the ones, he is rotating with these guys. Last but not least, I hate ending with negative news, but I definitely want to throw this in here before we close up shop. There were some more players that were limited in practice on Saturday and did not participate in team drills. This list might be longer than you want it to be. It's Will Kazmarek, Logan George, Jarquez Carter at defensive tackle, Isaiah West, a running back, a true freshman running back, and the safety Deshaun Stewart. Kazmarek has been battling injury since he got to Ohio State a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now. So that one's shocking. I don't think he played in the spring game. Get healthy, man. Get healthy. I believe Kazmarek can be a phenomenal piece for Ohio State this year as a backup tight end, but he has to be healthy.
Ever wished managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones.
Let's dive right into this Matt Campbell situation, because when Matt Campbell got his contract extension, I was one of the first to talk about it. I think everyone that was a Cyclone fan was extremely excited. Why? Because Matt Campbell might be the greatest coach that Iowa State's had, maybe ever. I mean, is that too wild of a statement to make? The success that Matt Campbell has had at Iowa State is wild. It just is. And we've kind of broken it down. But one of the big stats that I always bring up is that Iowa State had 3 bowl wins prior to Matt Campbell being head coach. They now have 6. Do the math. They had 3, now 6. 6 minus 3, that's 3. That means Matt Campbell has 3, therefore effectively doubling up the number of bowl game wins that Iowa State has. That in and of itself feels like a statistic that just can't be ignored. However, there are other, the all-time winningest, whatever, like that. You really get into the weeds with the statistics there. But I always point out the bowl game win, because that's kind of like the end of the season, right? So worth mentioning there. And I do think that Matt Campbell coming back and everyone being excited about it goes deeper than just the wins and losses on the field, though. Everyone's excited when we win more games. When Iowa State wins more games, that's a good thing. Everyone loves that, right? I think we'd love to win every game by 50, but that's not always going to be the case. What about the years where you don't win a ton of games? What's this really all about? The players, right? And the way that Matt Campbell has developed this culture and the developmental system that he's created to make it about the players. And, not every player is just a number. It's like you're a real person. We treat you with, a lot of respect, and we're trying to develop you into men and to the best football player you can be. Obviously, right now, we're seeing just like a wicked amount of Iowa State players in the NFL, and I think that's only going to continue to grow. So all of that, is why everyone was so excited about Matt Campbell coming back as a head coach. I don't personally know anybody that was kind of bummed out. Like, man, I really wish you would have taken that Bears job. No, I literally don't know anyone that thought that way, except for maybe a few Iowa fans, because they kind of know that with Matt Campbell at the helm at Iowa State, going to be a difficult game every single year for those Hawkeyes, right? That's kind of a point at least worth making. Now, when the contract extension came out, we didn't really have any numbers. Same thing with TJ Otzelberger. It was just kind of numbers that weren't really finalized or released or whatever. It seems as though they are now out. I've seen a few reports from, like KCRG, KCCI, whatever. Right here, I've got it pulled up by ESPN. And essentially, we got some numbers. That's good news. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they mean. Campbell will earn $5 million a year in total compensation, according to the contract obtained by ESPN. Okay. Remember, he's on extension through 2032, so about 7 years in there. And this is the part that I highlighted because this is a part that I think is extremely important. The 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year honoree took a discount on the deal, very important, sources told ESPN, to ensure that his staff salary pool increased and to allow Iowa State to allocate an additional $1 million to revenue sharing funds for its football roster. Wow. First off, that's you're not going to see that from every coach in the nation. You're going to see it from a few, and Matt Campbell obviously being one, but you're just not going to see that everywhere. I love that, when you see guys that come back to where they were prior, maybe it is to a college, after job offers from the NFL, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe guys in the NFL choosing to stay in the NFL over college. Rarely, if you can see some pretty big money bags out there, and it's like, well, we could take all of the money or stick around with what we've got. It's a tough situation. It is, because you never know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Were they offered a bunch of money? That's why they stayed. Did they leave because they were offered a bunch of money? Did they leave because, there was a number that could have kept them, but it wasn't enough and they enjoy the new situation more? I think a lot of people assumed that when Matt Campbell chose to come back to Iowa State over going to the NFL, there was, now granted, obviously I believe it was the Bears that would have had to choose him. Like, they are the ones doing the hiring, but at the same time, like, Matt Campbell, very sought after name here, right? And so I think a lot of people assume that when he came back, it was a situation where, well, Iowa State must have really paid him a lot of money, and it seems like now that's not the case. He said, "Look, I'll take a discount here. I want to make sure my staff is, basically decked out. Staff salary pool increased. That's what we want." And then he also said, "We'll take a discount to help the university, to help the kids out, and get the right guys in the building." That just says so much about Matt Campbell's character, the way that he runs his ship. That right there in and of itself was enough for me to bring this up, because I think that Matt Campbell is the perfect head coach for Iowa State. I just, like, literally as simple as that. I don't see any way where there is a better model of a coach than what Iowa State stands for, other than Matt Campbell. Now, does that change with a different head coach? Does his mentality kind of shift the persona of the university? There's a chance. There is a chance that could happen, and maybe this is a product of Matt Campbell being the head coach for so long. It just feels like this is who Iowa State is. But I would argue that this is who Iowa State is, this mindset of we before me and the team, and obviously development, and then, like, the more coaching philosophies, like, those are important too. But this idea, as opposed to, it's me, it's the team, it's the team, it's the team. Matt Campbell isn't going to take $35 million a year. He'll take, obviously that wasn't the number that was offered. That's just a number I threw out, but he'll take the $5 million a year and then effectively put what the rest of the money that he should be owed into the team. Just make the team better, make my team around me, in his coaching staff, support staff better, put it back into the players. Like, that's what you want to see out of a head coach. And a lot of the reason for that is he's walking the walk. He's doing what he's talking about. That's what you got to lead by example sometimes. You can have all the amazing speeches you want, but at some point your cards got to get on the table and you got to play the game a little bit. And it looks like Matt Campbell, this is like every single fan base in the entire nation has to feel jealous that their head coach isn't doing this. I just, me personally, if this came out about really pretty much any other school, I would have been like, I feel like, Matt Campbell probably is doing that, but like, I don't have any confirmation. Like, I would love to know. We do know. And to every other fan base out there, I'm going to get my soapbox a little bit here. Our head coach is better than yours. It's literally just that simple. It's just that simple.